was I born? I have no clue. I once had no perception of time. Seeing my reflection in the river water, I cursed myself for being born as the slowest, most boring creature, a snail. Everything I did was slow, thinking, moving, aging. To me, the passage of time itself flickered away in the blink of an eye. In a deep, still forest of Guizhou, I laid, bored by the tranquility of it. Other than an earthquake or fire once a century, the only excitement was an occasional breeze that would threaten my balance on my favorite branch. I've watched the forest I live in grow, fall, and be reborn. I've watched the rise and fall of eras ruled by different top animals. But when you live for as long as I have, this no longer excites you. One day, I was woken up by the smell of burning and a rumbling I've never heard before. When I blinked my eyes drowsily, I thought I had seen incorrectly, that I was still half awake. But I wasn't mistaken. I saw what I now know to be a car, zooming across the forestry, without a care for the bumps and vegetation in its path. Watching it knock through everything in its way, stubbornly and with such speed, I was innately drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I chased after it, though chase is a strong word. During my pursuit, the tracks laid by the car were soon displaced by other animals, by wind and by rain. Still, I trudged on. If I were to turn back, then what? I would sit at my usual branch and stare off into the distance. Living just to live? I couldn't go back to that. The season turned from spring to summer. Soon, my path was littered with orange leaves. In the next moment, I had to pause to let the snow melt. This cycle repeated in numerous times on my journey. After who knows how many miles, I finally came across a car. Though, this one was much different from the one I initially saw. I climbed on its front, exploring the new object that was completely foreign to me. Its material was harder than the rocks I often lounged on, but was completely smooth to the touch. Suddenly, a violent shake came from the car, and a brrring sound along with it. It started moving. Within a blink of an eye, the car was moving from a leisurely pace to sprinting faster than any animal I have ever seen before. Slammed against the front of the car, I swore I was a goner with how violently the air whipped against my skin. Mountains to my right passed by within a split second. The birds above were being left in the dust. Within each minute, new scenery was in front of me. In the midst of all that fear, I've never felt so excited. It wasn't long before my surroundings looked completely alien. The monstrous offloader I was on finally came to a stop. I was left surrounded by tall gray blocks that emitted light brighter than the sun itself. Sometimes, the lights were of different colors and painted an image that flickered and moved. I hopped off and landed on a wet, rocky, black surface, shell-shocked by the new world I was transported into. Loitering nearby, Din watched me gaze at everything like an idiot. Taking me under his wing, under his shell, he introduced me to everything that he, a city snail, grew up around. Touring the city of Guangzhou, I was fascinated by the hustle and bustle of it all. The flashing lights, the quick strides of the people, the numerous sights to see. I was overwhelmed. Still, I turned to Din and said, I could never go back to the forest. I will never go back, not after seeing what excitement existed outside of it. I particularly got drawn into games, rhythm games to be more specific. The lightning-fast fingers of players, matching the nearly invisible prompts on the screens in front of them, showed me a new type of speed. As a snail, I will never be physically fast, but maybe I can make up for my slow nature this way. Dindin said life in the city runs on work to eat, and I can't simply scavenge like I had in the forest. I grew anxious. What do I do? I'm not even sure what work is. Dindin said many are looking for streamers who can take them away from the daily stresses of life. Would I be able to do this for them? He asked. Well, I think it's obvious what I said, since here I am.